Hey Eric, let's take a look at your week 6 final project here. Um, some big differences between this one and the last one that we saw. I think the setting has changed considerably, although I guess not considerably, still kind of the same timeline. But I think that for me, it I think it worked a little bit better for in this kind of scene where I think I was more focused on the figural element on the left, and this just seemed so much more kind of sparse and open, like we would kind of picture for the old kind of West. I think here the guy is a little bit closer. The buildings seem to be a little bit more generic, and you're missing the all-important kind of sunset in place. But the kind of person on the left is much, I think, better realized in terms of the value overall. Detail is also very good, and I think that's really where we kind of get the main draw. I do like the contrast, though, that we saw here, where the hand, which is lighter in value, is kind of set against very dark elements like the wood and like the dirt, whereas here it's lighter element next to kind of a lighter element, and so we don't get quite as much of the contrast. You've also got a gray in place here, which is very, very similar to the gray in place there, which was not something that was the case in the other one. So I think it's almost kind of not even a setting thing as much as it is maybe the way that the colors are being used and how they're being used in proximity to other colors, which is always something to watch out with. The other things I'll just kind of mention that are for me a bit of a kind of a distraction. I think this guy here could work a little bit better in terms of proportions and just kind of naturalism of his stance. And I almost think this was a better idea because you don't have to put as much detail into him. Still very mysterious, still very ominous, and I think still in line with the theme of kind of the Old West. I think now that he's more apparent, you have to do a much better job of making sure that he's standing in a natural position, that he fits on the ground plane better, that there's a good amount of detail, etc., etc. And so I almost think that this is kind of an easier solution for you and maybe a more effective one overall. Cast shadow also seems to be working a little bit better for me with the light source behind him. The shadows emanating from him and pointing in the better direction. I think here it seems like it moves away from him in a slightly kind of stranger way, although I can see why you did it so that it matches the cast shadows here. I think for me the last qualm I have, and probably the biggest one, and it is something that you mentioned in your post as well, is the abundance of colored pencil when I really wish there were marker being used. So like the belt, the holster, even kind of the shell kind of clip belt slash thingy, I wish were in marker because, like you said, it's very difficult to get value changes in place, and here you could, I think, definitely use a little bit of value to show that turn in the holster. I think the leather of the belt could use a slightly smoother coverage and deal with value and highlight a little bit more, and it's just not something you can get with the colored pencil. Even the sky I think would even out a little bit more if it were marker rather than colored pencil. So there's a few areas where you do notice the colored pencil, although I will say, the white on the jeans is really nicely done. The gun itself is excellently rendered. The hand is excellently rendered, and even the ground plane, which I actually can see kind of the crags in the dirt and the rocks and the cast shadows, are really nicely done also. So I think some decisions from the last one, just inadvertently maybe kind of take away from the overall product, but there are definitely changes that were made that benefit the drawing, I think, making it much more impressive, much clearer, and like the hand, the holster, the gun, and this whole kind of thing, really, really nicely done.